You're listening to the HawgBeat Hour with Andrew Hutchinson, Alex Trader, and Mason Choate on ESPN Arkansas and hitthatline.com. Now, here's your host, Mason Choate.
Welcome into a Christmas edition of the HawgBeat Hour. I'm Mason Choate, joined by Alex Trader and Andrew Hutchinson. We're the HawgBeat crew, and we got a lot to get to today, as always. We'll start with Tre Williams, DWI, Hutch. You kind of got to the news on Sunday. I know that it might have ruined your day, but he gets the DWI, and then he decides to opt out of the bowl. Pittman said that he would have suspended him anyway, so just kind of fill us in on the details of that.
Yeah, so contrary to popular belief, us reporters are not just constantly checking the Washington County Jail website looking for things like this to write about. It was Sunday morning. I was playing with my 2-year-old daughter and just happened to look at the message board, and there the news was. He got arrested. He got arrested early Sunday morning. It was a little after 1 a.m. He was in the McDonald's drive-thru on MLK and apparently fell asleep at the wheel. And they called it in, and he failed a field sobriety test, and then he blew a .09, which is just barely over the legal limit of .08 in Arkansas. So did get DWI, and then it comes out, I don't know, later. So that was early in the morning. Then later that evening, but right around almost 5 o'clock, he tweeted out the announcement that he was going to opt out. He apologized for what had happened and said he was going to start focusing on the NFL draft. But as Mason said, that was going to happen regardless because Sam Pittman was going to probably suspend him. So tough loss for Arkansas because he is Arkansas's best pass rusher. But, you know, it happens, and they're going to have to figure out how to make it work.
And we'll talk more about how they're going to make it work later on in the episode. But, you know, that's just an unfortunate situation. You've seen kind of the jokes made of, you know, you want to be like Darren McFadden, but not in that way. And so, unfortunately, he did that. But I'm sure Trey will get it figured out. We kind of talked to some people the other day. He's a great kid, but he's made some mistakes. And so that's unfortunate. And hopefully he gets those figured out. Jalen St. A little bit of some drama going on with him, announces that he's going to transfer from Arkansas. And then the very next day announces, just kidding, I'm going to stay. Hutch, do you think that might have been a conversation he had with Sam Pittman where Pittman was like, hey, man, we actually want you?
Yeah, that was a very weird situation because he never actually really made an announcement. Just he popped up in the portal and all, of course, Rivals portal. You can follow that on Twitter and stay up to date with anyone that goes in the portal. And that happened. And that happened a few hours after we had just talked to Sam Pittman. We noticed that he wasn't at practice on Monday. And then we asked Sam Pittman about it at the end of practice. And he said, I don't know what's going on. I don't know where St. John was. He just wasn't at practice today. I'll have to ask him about it. A few hours later, pops up in the portal. And like, oh, okay, well, that's why he went into practice. And then sure enough, as Mason was saying, popped up the next day that he had withdrawn his name. He made a statement that he's staying. To me, this is just kind of reading between the lines. I don't know if this is, exactly what happened, but to me, it sounded like St. John maybe got frustrated or something and just went in the portal without talking to anybody. And I think Sam Pittman's one of those guys who he wants to talk to you before you make a decision and help you make a decision. I mean, Josh Oglesby a few weeks back, during the season made the decision like, hey, I'm not going to be able to play. He told coach that, hey, I'm this spot on the depth chart, I'm not going to get to play. And he said, you know what? That's probably a good decision. Go for it. Doesn't sound like those conversations happened with St. John, but they did happen after he had already entered the portal. And so I guess he was able to talk him into staying because St. John's going to be one of those. I mean, he was on the 2-deep depth chart all season. And he could be a guy that maybe pushes for a starting job or, could be like the first guy off the bench next year. And then, move even further up the depth chart as more guys graduate on this offensive line because Arkansas is returning 4 of the 5 starters.
So St. John is actually staying, but Ray Curry Jr., he announces that he's going to transfer from Arkansas. So he's gone. He was also a redshirt freshman offensive lineman. I believe he became the 8th Hog to announce he's transferring. But Hutch, aside from Vito Calvaruso, there really isn't anybody who made a whole lot of an impact during their time here at Arkansas that is transferring.
Correct, and that's what you want. You want guys that just maybe aren't where they want to be on the depth chart. I mean, St. John would have been probably a significant loss as well, but Ray Curry was kind of buried on the depth chart, probably third or fourth string. So he was probably had a ways to go before he could get on the field here at Arkansas. So it's not as big of a deal to lose him. You're going to have that kind of turnover every year. You know, Jermaine Hamilton Jordan or whatever his name was, the defensive back, he was a true freshman. So you don't want to lose a guy like that because, you know, who knows what he could evolve into. Plus he was kind of banged up, had injuries throughout the season. So maybe that one was a kind of a tough loss, but all the other guys have been guys that probably were not going to make an impact at Arkansas. So you haven't lost to Mike Woods or someone like that, which would really, really suck. But luckily you've avoided those. And I think Sam Pittman feels pretty good that he's going to avoid losing someone like that to the portal. But I would not be surprised if more people enter the portal. I just think it's going to be guys that are, you know, further down the depth chart.
Well, let's kind of shift gears here and bring in Alex Trader, the recruiting expert over at HawgBeat.com. So Sam Pittman and Arkansas did not sign a quarterback in this year's recruiting class, but next year they will most likely be signing a quarterback. They kind of mentioned that during his early signing day press conference. And so, Alex, you have this story that came out, your 2023 Arkansas football big board for quarterbacks. So just kind of fill us in on a little bit of what you had in that story. Don't give it all away, but some guys that you were looking at.
Yeah, no, I think where Arkansas is at with the quarterback depth right now, you still have KJ for at least 1 year. You've got Malik Hornsby coming up after him. There were some rumblings that maybe they weren't quite sure what was going on with him earlier this week, but it looks like he's set to stay and probably stay in that backup role for at least another year and then maybe look to take over after that. But there were a couple guys, you know, that Arkansas really is in the mix for in 2023 that would all be huge pickups for the staff. And one of those guys is Vic Sutton, who's also from Mississippi. Recently got bumped up to a 4-star for the Razorbacks or in Rivals. And he kind of follows in that, you know, maybe KJ Jefferson type footsteps where he's been on campus a couple times, enjoyed his visits. We had a story about him earlier this year. And he looks like a kid that can really go out there and play. Another guy, Avery Johnson, was mentioned by Jaden Ham, which is a 2023 tight end commit, that he was the number one guy. He was trying to pick him up. Maybe that's because both of them are from Kansas. You can never quite know with these high school kids. But there are a couple guys in those mix. There's another guy in the mix who I'll let you guys go take a look at the story for. But then there are a couple of other guys where, hey, offers are out there. They're on the market. If those first three guys kind of fall through, then you could be looking at them, guys who committed elsewhere, Tad Hudson, Pierce Clarkson, and then also just some guys, you know, Arch Manning, Jaden Rashada, who is a California quarterback, one of the top prospects in the country, actually signed his first NIL deal a couple days ago and made some news on ESPN and some other sites. But there's just so many offers out there that I think Arkansas really feels good about the crop of quarterbacks coming out of the 2023 class and should be able to land a guy that they are happy with as, you know, maybe the heir apparent to KJ Jefferson or Malik Hornsby or someone else from the transfer portal.
You can find that story at HawgBeat.com. Alex is always doing a great job. It was an interesting read. I love reading those stories where it's like guys that Arkansas might get. Makes me feel like I'm building a dynasty on NCAA. Hutch, speaking of quarterbacks, though, Cade Renfro, injury news, tore his ACL. Fill us in on that. Won't really impact the Hogs, but it impacts him.
Yeah, so he tore his ACL in practice. They did a scrimmage with all the young guys, the guys that probably aren't going to play in the bowl game last Friday. Unfortunately, it was like one of the last few plays of the scrimmage, and he just planted wrong and went down, tore an ACL, which I think most of us know that's, you know, 9 to 12 month kind of recovery time. And with it happening in December, that puts him back, you know, at the earliest, maybe at the very start of next season. So that's a significant blow to Arkansas's quarterback depth. I mean, we talked about it just now. The reason they didn't bring in a 2022 quarterback is because they felt good about they like what they're on 2023, and they feel good about their depth. And one of those guys is Cade Renfro. Even though he's technically a walk-on, he was a scholarship guy at Ole Miss, and now he's here at Arkansas as a walk-on. He could potentially earn a scholarship next semester and not have to count as like an initial counter toward the class and stuff. I would not be surprised if that happens. But still, it's a blow to Arkansas's depth. They like what they have in Hornsby. We obviously know KJ's coming back. We know that Lucas Coley is there. He was a true freshman this year. But what do you have other than that? I mean, I don't even know if they'll probably bring in a walk-on maybe or something just for depth purposes. But we could maybe see Arkansas maybe look into the portal and try to bring in a guy kind of as a backup. You're not going to bring in a really good quarterback because you already have your starter at KJ. I mean, there's no mystery there. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they handle it from kind of a kind of numbers perspective moving forward.
Well, on the topic of depth, coming up next, we're going to talk about Arkansas's depth chart that they released for the Outback Bowl versus Penn State. We're going to talk more about the Outback Bowl, some opt-outs for Penn State, maybe some worries about the game even being played. And then we'll talk plenty of Arkansas basketball, our opinions on what's going on, where this team is headed here on the HawgBeat Hour.
You're listening to the HawgBeat Hour with Andrew Hutchinson, Alex Trader, and Mason Choate on ESPN Arkansas and HitThatLine.com. Now, here's your host, Mason Choate.
All right, we're back here on the HawgBeat Hour. We're brought to you by CJ's Butcher Boy Burgers. Thank you to everybody that voted for them for Best of Northwest Arkansas. Voting is closed, but the winners are going to be announced on March 20th. If anybody but CJ's wins Best Burger and Best Fries in Northwest Arkansas, then it's rigged. It is not right because CJ's, they have the best burgers, not just in Northwest Arkansas, not just in Arkansas, not just in the United States, but in the world. Best burger I've ever had. I know it's the best burger Alex and Hutch have ever had because we talk about it all the time off air, how much we love CJ's, and their fries are amazing as well. Milkshakes are awesome too. Go get a milkshake. If you're going to go get a milkshake or ice cream, don't go to any other business. I'm not going to give out free ads and say other business names. Just go to CJ's. It's easy. They have a location in Fayetteville off Weddington. It's super easy. And then they also have a location in Russellville. So if you're coming up for a basketball game, if you're traveling for Christmas, stop by in Russellville at CJ's, stop by in Fayetteville at CJ's, CJ's. All right. Now, HawgBeat.com. We also have a lot going on at HawgBeat.com. Basketball's SEC season is starting up. So we're going to be getting more into basketball. Of course, the bowl game coming up. So Hutch, just tell everybody what they can do to subscribe to HawgBeat.com.
Yeah, head over to HawgBeat.com and you can sign up. I believe it's, if you want to become a monthly user, I believe it's about $10 a month. Or if you want to go ahead and sign up for a full year, you could save a little bit of money and pay $100 up front. It's well worth it. I promise. We are constantly bringing you content. We're constantly keeping you up to date with all things Arkansas. And the message board is always really entertaining. There's always rumors and things that maybe don't happen to be true. But if nothing else, it's really good entertainment. And every once in a while, something ends up being true. I mean, we had the Cade Renfro ACL injury on there Friday afternoon, like right after it happened. So be checking out the Trough. It's a premium message board for all sorts of information you won't find on Twitter or anywhere else.
Yeah, Hutch, you mentioned some rumors and stuff, but usually most of my breaking news that I get, at least Arkansas-related breaking news, I get off the board. And if any of us are breaking news, we usually send it to the board first. So if you want to be the first to find out any breaking news on Arkansas athletics, subscribe to HawgBeat.com. You don't just get that, you get great content. I mean, Hutch is an award-winning writer, best writer in Arkansas sports. Alex killing it on the recruiting trail. And then I do a little stuff here and there as well. So go to HawgBeat.com, go to CJ's, and you will not be disappointed. So, guys, let's talk about this depth chart that Arkansas released for the Outback Bowl. Not a whole lot of changes, but Hutch, just tell us a little bit about where they've mixed it up.
Yeah, so first I'll preface this by saying the depth chart that the U of A releases is pretty much worthless. They don't actually put changes in the depth chart, and it takes a while for them to be reflected in the depth chart. But this depth chart was a little bit interesting because they did actually remove the opt-outs. Treylon Burks is not on there. Tre Williams is not on there. So they had to kind of adjust some things. We saw Bryce Stevens is now listed on the depth chart. That was kind of expected. He's a true freshman who could play in this game and still maintain his red shirt. I'm anxious to see what he could do. I mean, he's shown some flashes as a punt returner, some explosiveness, some speed. Really anxious to see what he could do. I don't expect him to be Treylon Burks. No, I don't think anybody would expect that. But gonna be interested to see what he could do against Penn State in the bowl game. And then on the defensive side of things, Trey Williams had been listed as a starter, and now Jashad Stewart, a sophomore from Jonesboro, is listed as a starter in his position. So don't know if he'll actually start. They list a 4-man front on the depth chart, but they, as we all know, they like to do a 3-man front as well. If they start in a 3-man front, my guess is that the starters are going to be John Ridgeway in the middle, Markel Utze at defensive end instead of defensive tackle, which is where he's listed on the depth chart, and then probably Zach Williams. But who knows? They may go with Stewart. Not really sure there. But those are really the main changes. They did take Jalen St. John off the depth chart. He had been listed as the backup left tackle. He is no longer listed on there. It's Luke Jones instead. Probably just kind of in response to St. John's kind of entering the portal and coming back like we talked about last segment. So other than that, really no changes. I mean, Vito Calvaruso isn't listed on there either. He entered the portal. So other than that, nothing really different. But it's going to be interesting to see how they actually line up, and if anybody kind of made a move during the bowl practices to get up in the starting group.
So for Arkansas, only 2 opt-outs so far from Tre Williams and Treylon Burks. But for Penn State, they have some opt-outs as well. Alex, you're our resident Big Ten guy, so they have a couple linebackers, and then rumors of a wide receiver opting out. We don't know yet, but tell us a little bit about Penn State.
Yeah, it looks like they're going into this one without 2 of their best defensive players, and their linebackers. I believe it's Brandon Smith and Ellis Brooks, and you could be looking at a third, Jaquan Brisker. He hasn't yet announced his opt out, but over at some Penn State sites, they're a little bit nervous that, hey, this really could be coming. Same with a defensive tackle. Really just, it's a waiting game. The way that college football is right now, you're not quite sure what you're going to be getting out of this game. I doubt we'll be seeing a full strength Penn State with those guys gone, with the possibility of Jahan Dotson, who is basically their Treylon Burks. He's everything to their offense, and even more so than what Treylon is, because they don't have that same running threat out of the backfield, whether it be at the quarterback position or with their backs. I think if he doesn't play, this one could be really, really difficult for Penn State to come out and be competitive with the physicality of what Arkansas is going to be able to bring. But though he wasn't at practice, I do kind of expect him to play. I'm not quite sure why, because with that star receiver position, you're expecting, hey, I might be a first, early second, maybe slip to the third, but still I'm going to be a first 2-day draft pick. I'm going to want to get out here and just go start preparing for the draft and get to the combine and show off what I can do and make sure I'm not getting hurt. But if they lose him and Brisker, then it's a very, very different game than it would be if those guys are both coming in and playing.
Well, I hate to speculate and talk about rumors and stuff, but with A&M not being able to play in the Gator Bowl, we know that Rutgers is now filled in for them, and they're going to play Wake Forest in the Gator Bowl. But you have to talk about it. There's worries that, Arkansas and Penn State might not be able to play the Outback Bowl, which would be unfortunate for Arkansas, at least for both teams, but Arkansas, that would be 2 years in a row. So Hutch, there's been some rumors going around, and it's just something that you got to worry about.
Yeah, I don't know if there's anything to these rumors yet, so I want to make that clear before we really get going, and don't know what's going to happen. However, I know Penn State's basketball team has had some COVID issues. I think they had to either postpone or cancel some games. And I'm asking some Penn State people as we speak. Who knows by the time this airs or is up as a podcast what's happened, but I know for Arkansas's sake, they do not want that to happen. I mean, they had the Texas Bowl against TCU last year ripped out from under them literally as they were getting ready to get on the bus to go to the airport, and that really sucks. You'd hate for this to happen right now, right before Christmas. That would be a horrible Christmas present for Arkansas and Arkansas fans and media who already have hotels and flights booked. So personally, I hope that doesn't happen. I know. Hopefully, if it is going to happen, though, you hope it happens soon, so that way they could find a replacement. I know Illinois, which is coached by our former friend Brett Bielema, they were actively kind of campaigning to be that replacement team as a 5-7 team. So maybe that could happen if it does come to fruition. But ideally, Penn State's able to play, and we get Arkansas versus Penn State in the Outback Bowl like we've planned.
Well, I don't want to sit here and speculate on all that stuff, but what you mentioned Christmas, and so what we can do is we can talk about some Christmas wishes that we have for Arkansas athletics. Hutch, I'm going to throw this on. I'm going to throw this on both of you right now. I've been working on a story of Christmas wishes for Arkansas fans, but I want to know from you two. Just give me one Christmas wish that you have for Arkansas athletics. And I don't know how you're going to make this like a neutral thing. Like I'm reporting on Arkansas and I'm not being a fan, but Hutch, you can go ahead and go first. Tell me what you want.
Yeah, I think my wish would be for Sam Pittman, and this is something that he wished for the other day at the end of his press conferences. To retain all of his assistant coaches. I think that would be the best gift of all for Sam Pittman, because you're really wanting to build some continuity on this football team. You've got a lot of momentum going, 8-4 in the regular season. You've got a really solid recruiting class. Now, can you keep Kendall Briles? Can you keep Barry Odom? Can you keep all of your assistant coaches? Last year, I think half of the staff was changed. I mean, I think it was 5 assistants. I can't remember if that included Brad Davis, or maybe Brad Davis was the 6th. I can't remember exactly, but they had a ton of movement after the season. Some of that was by choice. Sam Pittman chose to, but some of it was guys just left. I mean, I know he probably wouldn't have liked to lose Brad Davis when he did. I think it worked out. They brought in Cody Kennedy, and he's been, really solid. But that's kind of the number one thing I'm watching for. Other than, maybe, avoiding a COVID outbreak that would wipe out the bowl game. So but retaining all of his assistants, that would be the biggest, Christmas present Sam Pittman could get this offseason, I think.
What about you, Alex Trader? What is a Christmas wish you have?
Yeah, so I think on the football front, keeping a staff together really in any sport is super important, but especially football, where you have these guys coming in and they're working more with their position coaches than maybe the basketball would, because you have just such a smaller group and you're able to work more with the head coach. So that can be kind of a rallying point. I'm going to extend out a little bit past basketball season into the spring, into the summer. I think it'd be cool to see Arkansas, finally step into that role as that top dog that they're seen as in baseball and bring home the College World Series. I think you were really close a couple of years ago. You didn't quite get it. There was that pop-up that really still is just insane that it wasn't caught, and Arkansas didn't bring it home. And then a couple of years ago, you have the kind of flame out in the World Series. And last year, you're really the wire-to-wire favorite, and it just doesn't end up going your way. You end up losing to NC State. I think it'd be really cool for Dave Van Horn to come out and kind of show, hey, we deserve this and have something to show for it, versus just being looked at as the best to not do it.
Yeah, definitely another trip to Omaha is on my list. Really wanted to go last year. That was an unfortunate situation. That's just how baseball goes. But I guess for me, To be different, I'm going to say basketball gets it figured out. And, I'm a big Jalen Williams guy, and I hope that he gets it figured out. He started the season very good, and he's just kind of gone down a little bit, and I hope that he gets it figured out because I think he could be one of the better bigs in the SEC, and a lot of people have kind of been talking bad about him, and you don't like to see that, and I hope that he gets it figured out and he can show why he's a good basketball player. So, guys, we're gonna wrap this segment up. That was a football talk, and then coming up next we got basketball talk. We're gonna talk about the loss to Hofstra, and then we're gonna talk about the bounce back win against Elon and what this team is moving forward to SEC season.
You're listening to the HawgBeat Hour with Andrew Hutchinson, Alex Trader, and Mason Choate on ESPN Arkansas and HitThatLine.com. Now, here's your host, Mason Choate.
All right, we're back here on the HawgBeat Hour. We're going to talk some basketball this segment. So Arkansas fell to Hofstra over the weekend. An unfortunate turn of events. None of us were there at the game. We had Jackson Collier, JC Hoops covering the game for HawgBeat. And guys, we were able to keep up with it on the radio, but it wasn't the best game to listen to on the radio, Hutch. And so it was an unfortunate turn of events for the Hogs.
Yeah, I mean, coming off of the blowout loss against Oklahoma for their first loss this season, you really expected them to come out and bounce back. They had a full week off because of finals. I really thought they were going to come out and play better than they did. Hofstra is not a bad team by any means. I mean, they did take Houston to overtime to start the season. They came really close to beating Maryland. They were ranked at that time. So they've been okay, but then again, if you look at their overall record, they had a sub 500 record against Division I opponents. So not a great loss. It's a quad 3 loss for Arkansas, and they pretty much got dominated from the jump. I mean, I think they may have led a little bit briefly, but not much. I mean, they fell down big. They battled back late in the second half, got within, I think, 2, and then just couldn't get over the hump. They just couldn't stop Hofstra, keep Hofstra from scoring, and it was just overall just a really bad performance. And Eric Musselman, said as much after the game. I mean, he was at a loss of words, saying that I don't know what to do, and that's never what you want to hear from your head coach. But I mean, I feel for him because it was a really bad loss for Arkansas, probably the worst loss in the Eric Musselman era so far.
Yeah, I'm looking here at the stats. It says Arkansas only led for 43 seconds in that game. So that's definitely not what you want when you're playing a team like Hofstra. They out rebounded the Hogs 40-33, and a big part of that was Bebe Iola, the former Hog. He had 18 points and 14 rebounds. That was a big story. Playing against his former team, really dominated Arkansas. But I think one of the bigger stories that came out of this game was KK Robinson getting the start. He had a 3-pointer and 4 assists, but he only played for 3 minutes and 30 seconds in this game. And we know that the lineup changes have been different. They had a lot of different lineup changes against Elon. But Hutch, just from your perspective, why do you think it was that, KK did not play that much in that game?
Yeah, I was very confused by that when I saw the box score and saw what he did. And I was talking to Jackson about it, who again was there covering it for us, and he said he played for like the first couple of minutes, and he did commit a foul, and I think he shot a couple of 3-pointers and missed them, and that led to him coming out. And then he ended up going back in the game late. So I don't really know, because it doesn't make sense to me as to why you'd start a guy and then only play him a couple of minutes and then that be it. But then again, Eric Musselman has probably forgot more basketball than I'll ever know in my life. So I do defer to him because he is very knowledgeable of the game. But it was just a very peculiar thing, and to see all the different lineups that, as you said, against Elon and everything. I think Eric Musselman is just desperately searching for answers, and I guess he just didn't like what he saw early on from KK, and decided to go someone else to try to get answers there.
Well, the other Robinson on the Arkansas basketball team, Jackson Robinson, he finally got it going from three. He had 3 of 4 3-pointers in the game, and that's been something that we've been looking for from him. Is you brought this guy in to shoot the three, and he hasn't really done it much until this game against Hofstra, and he only played 7 minutes and 15 seconds in this game, but he was 3 for 4 from three, and that was another interesting thing. If he's that hot, why aren't you playing him? I don't know. Hutch, I can't remember. Didn't he make most of those threes down the stretch in the second half?
Yeah, 2 of those threes were actually in like the last 45 seconds of the game. So the game was already in hand. They were garbage time. So it really didn't. I didn't really have any issues with how much he played or whatever against Hofstra. However, it was very beneficial for him to hit those because I think it really helped his confidence. And we saw that the benefit of that against Elon, which I'm sure we'll talk about momentarily. But that's good. You need to get him going because Arkansas has not shot the three well at all this entire season. I mean, I think they had a couple of decent games to start out the year, and then after that, it was just horrible. I mean, they're not even shooting 30%, or at least they weren't going into that game. So I really need to get him going, and maybe he could be a guy kind of like Devo and Jalen Williams last year, who didn't play much early on. Had some games where they didn't even come off the bench, and then evolves into just a critical piece down the stretch.
Before we move on to the Elon game, I want to hit a few more things from Hofstra. First, so Arkansas had 48 points off the bench. That's mainly because JD Note and Chris Lice came off the bench. They combined for 39 points. JD was 8 for 16 shooting, 4 for 9 from three. He had 6 turnovers. And Hutch, this is a guy that you were expecting to, be your go-to scorer, be your top player on your team this year. And he's struggled. Musselman has talked about how he needs to work on, taking the right shots. And it seems like the leash that he has with JD hasn't gotten any shorter. I feel like he's still shooting just as much. So what do you think is going on with that situation?
Well, he was 4 of 9 from three, I believe, against Hofstra. So I will take 4 of 9 from JD Note any day of the week. And I think he also hit some shots against Elon. So maybe he's starting to turn a corner there. But yeah, I mean, Eric Musselman has said it that if they've had conversations about shot selection, and if it doesn't improve, then his minutes could diminish. And we haven't really seen that yet, even though he did, as you said, come off the bench for the first time this season against Hofstra. It's going to be one of those, I think, going to be one of those love-hate relationships with JD and Muss this year. There's going to be some really good moments from JD, and then there's going to be some really, really frustrating moments for JD, like we've seen, the few games prior, especially against Oklahoma. So really, really going to be interesting to see how that kind of develops, and if he can really kind of get his role defined as they go into SEC play starting next week.
Well, one more thing before we get on to Elon. I want to ask Alex, I want to ask you about this. Stanley Amude, a guy that you came into the season, he was supposed to be this elite scorer from South Dakota, and here we are, and he's just really struggling. He was 3 for 9, 0 for 4 against Hofstra. It just seems like he cannot find the bottom of the net, man, and he has been struggling. Didn't play a whole lot against Elon, but just what do you think is going on with Amude, Alex?
Yeah, I mean, he's only gone into double figures twice so far this season. So you're really not seeing that elite scoring presence much at all. And I think, in both those games that he went over, he took shots in the double figures. Those were the only times that happened, 10 and then 15 next game. He's just not putting up shots. And I don't know if that's a confidence thing or if it's a scheme thing or what's going on. But if you're not taking shots as a scorer, then you're not going to be able to find that rhythm that you need to get into. And also, if you're not able to find the rhythm, then you're gonna question yourself and not want to take those shots and not want to risk jeopardizing not only the team but also your playing time, your standing with the coaches and the guys on the court and the trust that they have in you. So I think it's really an interesting situation seeing a scorer go out there and not only not be able to find the bottom of the basket the way that he had when he was at South Dakota, but also just to not have the confidence to be shooting the ball up for whatever reason that may be. It is a little bit concerning, and you definitely want to see him maybe find some some solace in what he's been able to do as a scorer.
Well, we got all that bad stuff out of the way. Hofstra loss. We're done with that. And coming up next, we're going to talk about the bounce back win Arkansas had against Elon. They went with some new lineups, some fresh faces. We're going to talk about what lineups work best, what Arkansas might need to do moving forward to SEC play, all that here on the HawgBeat Hour.
You're listening to the HawgBeat Hour with Andrew Hutchinson, Alex Trader, and Mason Choate on ESPN Arkansas and HitThatLine.com. Now, here's your host, Mason Choate.
All right, we're back here on the HawgBeat Hour, brought to you by CJ's Butcher Boy Burgers. Talked about it earlier. I'll talk about it every episode. CJ's best burgers in the world, best burgers in Arkansas. If you're traveling for Christmas, you need to get some lunch, you need to get some dinner, stop in Fayetteville on Weddington and in Russellville on Arkansas, I think, for CJ's Butcher Boy Burgers. Don't just get the burgers, get the fries, get the milkshake, get everything they have there because it's all delicious. It's all amazing. And then also go to HawgBeat.com, subscribe to HawgBeat. Everything you can get from HawgBeat.com. It's just amazing. Top of the line, everything you need to know about Arkansas athletics is on HawgBeat.com, brought to you by Andrew Hutchinson, Alex Trader, and Mason Choate. So Arkansas bounce back win against Elon, 81-55. Eric Musselman said that he thought it was the best performance they've had this season. They went with a new starting lineup. Hutch, we'll go to you on this one. Some fresh faces in the starting lineup after there was some fresh faces in the starting lineup against Hofstra, but even more changes against Elon.
Yeah, none of the starters against Elon were the same as they were against Hofstra. He went with a completely new starting five. I mean, some of them weren't really new. I mean, J.D. Note had started almost every game. Connor Vanover had started a lot of games. Those guys were back in it. But we saw three other guys make their first starts with the Razorbacks. They were talking about Chris Likes, Jackson Robinson, and Trey Wade. So just a completely different starting lineup. We all had the stat broadcast pulled up on press row, and whenever it finally loaded, we were all like, oh, wow, okay. Like he told us he was going to make some lineup changes, but we didn't quite expect that. That was a little bit surprising. He was just, as I said earlier, he is just trying to tinker and find the best starting lineup before they get in SEC play. And Eric Musselman even said that after the game, like, hey, we're just trying to get enough stuff on film so we can go back and review it and see what worked and what didn't. And hopefully he got enough answers because Mississippi State's coming up next week as they go into SEC play. So hopefully they've got it figured out. I'm not 100% convinced that they have, but at least they now have some data to go off of.
Well, yeah, that starting lineup worked a little bit, but it wasn't the best lineup of the evening. It was about 6 minutes left in the first half, and we had a new lineup that we hadn't seen before. Let's see, what was it? It was Devo Davis, J.D. Note, Jackson Robinson, Trey Wade, and Kamani Johnson. And boy, did it work. I believe they went on a 17-0 run to end the first half, and Kamani Johnson was just playing crazy. He's always playing with a high motor, high intensity. And then Trey Wade, he was great on defense. Devo Davis facilitating it. Jackson Robinson hit 3 3-pointers. He was 3 of 4 in like that last 5 minutes of the first half. So Hutch, those are Robinson, Wade, and Johnson, 3 guys that you haven't seen much from this year, but they were a big reason that Arkansas beat Elon.
Yeah, I mean, it was actually Arkansas was actually trailing when those 3 guys checked in the game. It actually came at the 5:15 mark when those 3 guys, Jackson Robinson, Trey Wade, and Kamani Johnson, all checked in. And from that point on, they outscored them 15-0. It was actually a 17-0 run, as you mentioned, with a bucket before they checked in. But during that stretch, I think Elon, that is, was 0 of 7 from the floor. 5 of those 7 shots were blocked. I mean, that just tells you how great the defense was when they got in there. Kamani had 3 of those. I think Jackson had 1. I think Trey had 1. So they were all getting involved. And then on the other side of the floor, I think they were like 5 of 6 or something, and 4 of those field goals were assisted on. So they were moving the ball well, passing it. They weren't doing that earlier in the game. It just was a completely different game when those guys entered. I mean, it was very, very surprising. Kamani Johnson, he had only played in like half the games, and same thing with Jackson Robinson. He'd only played in half the games before that moment. So to say that it was an unlikely kind of combination that worked would be an understatement. I mean, no one in a million years, I would never have expected a stretch where Kamani Johnson made a tough reverse layup, came down, blocked a shot. Jackson Robinson hit a 3 to put Arkansas on top, and then Trey Way made a bucket after that. I mean, that was a very unlikely stretch of basketball that I probably could have never predicted in a million years going into the season.
Well, some of the usual contributors did not contribute a whole lot to this one, at least as far as points goes. Devontae Davis, Audice Toney, Jalen Williams, and Stanley Umude, they all combined for just 6 points. Toney only played 8 minutes and 27 seconds in this one. Umude only played 4 minutes and 50 seconds. But Hutch, you were talking about it after the game. There was some kind of stat. I can't remember what it was, but in games that Devontae Davis doesn't make a shot, because he didn't make a shot in this one, he only scored 1 point. What is that stat that Arkansas is like undefeated in games that he doesn't make a shot?
Well, it's actually doesn't even take a shot, and they're undefeated, but it's 2-0. He's done it twice this year now. He did it in the opener against Mercer. Very surprising when he didn't take a shot then. He really developed it to a nice little score there for a stretch. He had 18 points in back-to-back games, and then he scored 26 against Oklahoma in the loss. But yeah, he took kind of a back seat from a scoring perspective against Elon. Even though he only had the 1 point, 1 of 2 from the free throw line and didn't take a shot, he still had 6 assists, 6 rebounds, only 1 turnover. Really, really solid play. Eric Musselman was very pleased after the game, talking about, just kind of how he was really pleased with his performance. And you need more of that. You need more of those. I mean, yeah, you want him to score a little bit more in 1 point probably, but if you can get 6 rebounds and 6 assists from him, otherwise, that's a pretty good game for Devo Davis.
Well, Chris Likes was the leading scorer. He was 12 of 12 from the line, 21 points. Man, how awesome is that to have a guy on your team? It reminds me of Daryl Macon in that Vanderbilt game a couple years back, where you could just count on him to make the free throws to win the game. And that's what Chris Likes is for Arkansas. I mean, when he goes to the line, you're not expecting him to miss one. So how awesome and critical is it for Arkansas to have a guy like that, Hutch?
Yeah, it's big. I mean, if you're struggling to make shots, to which Arkansas has done quite a bit this year, you might as well try to get to the free throw line and get those. I mean, Arkansas is a decent free throw shooting team. They've had some really bad games, but Chris Likes has been really solid. He's probably shooting well over 70%. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but he's got a really just a knack for getting to the free throw line. That's how Eric Musselman put it. He's 5'7" and somehow is able to draw contact and get to the line. He did it a ton against Elon. He's had some other games where he's done it as well. I want to say he did it maybe one of the games in Kansas City or something. He's just a guy who can really score. I think he had 21 points and only 8 field goals attempted. That's really hard to do, and that shows you how much he got to the free throw line against Elon.
A name that a lot of people have been talking about and calling for more is KK Robinson. He only played 11 minutes in this one, but he came in. He looked good. He had a couple bad turnovers, just bad passes, but a lot of people were saying he needed to be playing more. He made a 3 in this one. Alex, just what have you seen from KK, and what do you see as his role moving forward? Because there's a lot of people saying that he should be the starting point guard on this team.
Yeah, it's been a really limited sample size so far, and we are still pretty early on into the season. Yes, you're all the way through non-con now, but there's still tinkering, like Hutch said, to be done with this lineup. It's clearly after that Oklahoma game, something wasn't right. Something wasn't clicking the way that we saw maybe last year for that team that ended up making that Elite Eight run. And if Muss wants to get back there, you don't have a Moses Moody who can go in and take over for you, who can just be that guy to just dominate the game. And I think maybe it's KK, maybe it's Chris Likes, JD Note, Devo Davis. You have to figure out who fits the best and what pieces you want to have out on the court as that main unit. And I'll be interested to see what he does for the start of SEC play when you're not playing Elon and you have to go out there and kind of show, hey, this is what we're gonna try and stick with and continue to build chemistry with. I think that's a pretty interesting prospect, and you've got to see if that'll be KK or if it'll be someone else. But I'm gonna just kind of trust Muss here, like Hutch said. He knows more basketball, or he'll forget more basketball than I know. So I think that's kind of the situation that this team's at, is they just have to figure out who their guys are.
Well, that'll wrap up the non-conference season aside from the SEC Big 12 Challenge against West Virginia in January. So SEC play is coming up. Arkansas will take on Mississippi State next Wednesday. So let's talk about moving forward for this Arkansas basketball team, what we need to see from them. And Hutch, I'm going to go to you first. Let's talk an X factor player for this Arkansas team moving forward to SEC play, a guy that you have to have this guy performing night in and night out for this team to be successful.
Yeah, you talked about him a little bit earlier, but Jalen Williams, I think, has the potential to be a really, really good player. Even if he doesn't score a whole lot, he's a really good passing big. He can rebound. He does all the little things. He takes charges. So I think he could be the X factor as far as a guy that, they really need him to be good night in and night out. Maybe if you want like a lesser known name, it would be really easy to pick a Kamani Johnson or a Trey Wade, after they had their really good performances against Elon. Maybe a Trey Wade, it'd maybe be a guy that could be a little bit more sustainable because he is coming from Wichita State. That's a really good basketball program. Kamani, he hasn't really ever played at this level, before, coming to Arkansas, coming from Little Rock. So I would maybe say Trey Wade would be my pick if you're asking, for a guy who hasn't really played much. But I think Jalen Williams is going to be a really big key for Arkansas success at SEC play.
Same question for you, Alex. An X factor you see moving forward for Arkansas?
Yeah, I agree. I think Jalen Williams has to be a guy that's going to step up and kind of fill that role of, hey, he was coming into the season as a guy that people expected to kind of lead this team, and he hasn't quite been there, at least in the last couple of weeks. Another guy, I think Jackson Robinson, we talked about him a little bit. He's starting to see a little bit more minutes. He's starting to heat up from three. If you can get a knockdown three-point shooter, it is so crucial in college basketball just to have that guy that you can find, and then also being able to go out there and just make an impact on the defensive side of the ball. I think that'll be a really important aspect to bring into the fold, and mixing and matching him with guys like Tony, Amude, just being able to get guys going. I think finding one hot hand is going to help spread that fire. So I think that'll be crucial that he continues to keep that hot streak going and continues to build on what he's done in the last couple games.
Yeah, Robinson's a guy that Kamani Johnson talked about after the Elon game and said he's just an awesome shooter. He said he shoots the skin off the ball. He's a guy that the team trusts to make a shot. He said that basically when he shoots the ball, the bench stands up because they feel like it's going to go in every time. So I think he's a key guy as well. And then Devo Davis, you also want to see him step into the role that, he fits best. And I feel like that's not the role of him as a scorer. I think that's a role of him as a facilitator and just, playing hard. Like we saw at the end of last season, he wasn't your go-to scorer, but he did all the little things right, kind of like Hutch talked about with Jalen Williams. And so if Devo Davis can do that, I mean, he only scored 1 point on a free throw against Elon, and Arkansas won by one big. So I see him as a key player as well. But Hutch, not an X factor, but Arkansas as a team as a whole, what is one thing that you think they need to work on the most moving forward? Because we know they've had issues with three-point defense. They've had issues with shooting the three-pointer. They've had issues with turnovers. So what do you think they need to fix the most moving forward?
Yeah, I guess I'll go a little bit more broad with my answer and just say team chemistry in general. We are not seeing. There's a reason Eric Musselman is still tinkering with the lineup, and it's because he hasn't figured out the best combination. It's just it still looks kind of clunky. I was talking with some of the other guys on press row during the game, and you know it just doesn't seem like this. Like even a fast break, transition offense, it just isn't very smooth right now. And they've got the talent. We know that they have the individual pieces. Can they all mesh and come together and be a true team? And that's what I'm really looking forward to seeing, is if they could do that. Because if they can't, then we may be in for a long SEC season. If they could come together, maybe they can be, finish top half of the SEC like we all expected. So that's really what I'm looking forward to seeing, from this team is can they come together and can they mesh and look like a true team in SEC play?
Hutch, are you out on Stanley Umude? I feel like it's another maybe Vance Jackson situation. Like last year, you expected this dude to be a key contributor, and now it's you're heading into SEC play, and he's a guy that can you really count on him anymore?
Oh, it's a great question. I think he's better than Vance Jackson was last year. I think he's proven that at least that much. Is he going to be as big of a factor as all of us expected? Probably not. I think most people expected him to be a starter. I know I did. That's a little bit of a disappointment. I do think he has potential. I think he's going to have some games where he really lights it up and he looks like the guy he did at South Dakota. But then there's also going to be games like the other night where he just doesn't do anything and doesn't play much. And when he's out there, it doesn't go well. So I think it's going to be a very up and down year for Stanley Umude, but I think he still has some potential to help Arkansas from time to time.
Well, another guy that was a key contributor early on, like a big key contributor, was Audis Toney. He was the star player for Arkansas early in the season. And these past two games, it feels like he's just something's not there. Eric Musselman kind of talked about him after the Hofstra game, and said that he didn't like what he saw from Toney, and then he showed it by only playing him for 8.5 minutes against Elon. So we know that he's not a guy that Arkansas is going to really run plays for as a scorer, but we saw him early in the season battling for rebounds, reminded us a little bit of Justin Smith from last year. Do you think Toney can pick it up and get back to where he was early in the year, Hutch?
They need him to, because he's one of those guys they brought in as a transfer and are counting on him and to bring that toughness, to bring the kind of stuff that we saw from Kamani Johnson and Trey Wade against Elon. And they really need him to get going. I don't know what it is why they can't, draw up plays for him or whatever, but he's going to need to bring that hustle, attacking the glass. When he was an incredible offensive rebounder earlier in the season, they need him to be that guy for them in SEC play, because they need all their guys to step up. I mean, to be quite honest, but he's the guy you brought in specifically as a transfer from the ACC to be a guy that you can count on.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, Arkansas will play Mississippi State in Starkville next Wednesday, 8:00 on the SEC Network. But that's going to wrap us up here on the HawgBeat Hour. Thank you guys for tuning in. We hope you all have a Merry Christmas. Hopefully no recruits commit on Christmas Day. And we hope that everybody has a wonderful holiday season. Thank you for listening to us. And once again, have a Merry Christmas.
You're listening to the HawgBeat Hour with Andrew Hutchinson, Alex Trader, and Mason Choate on ESPN Arkansas and HitThatLine.com. Now, here's your host, Mason Choate.